scattered across the vast breadth of the Imperium of man, upon a million worlds of every conceivable climate and condition are born, the countless soldiers who will one day form the backbone of the Astra Militarum, more commonly known as the Imperial Guard. These men and women are not heroes by choice, nor warriors by destiny, but rather the inevitable product of an empire that survives only through endless war. For every world that still flies the Aquila, there must be uncounted billions ready to die in its defense, and it is from this endless sea of humanity that the Imperial Guard draws its strength. The purpose of the Imperial Guardsman is simple and brutally clear: to fight, to hold, and to die, so that the Imperium may endure for one more day. Where the Space Marines are few and precious, and the Imperial Navy rules the void above, it is the Guard that bleeds upon the soil of alien worlds. They are deployed in numbers so vast that entire planets may be conquered or reduced to lifeless cinders through sheer weight of manpower and firepower. A single Guardsman is insignificant, disposable even, but together they form an unstoppable tide of flesh, steel, and faith. The origins of a Guardsman vary wildly depending on the world for which they are drawn. On some planets, military service is a revered tradition, with generations of families offering their strongest sons and daughters to the Munitorum with pride. On others, conscription is ruthless and absolute, with entire populations tithed at gunpoint to fulfill planetary quotas. Hive worlds, in particular, are fertile breeding grounds for Guardsmen, their overcrowded hab blocks and grinding poverty producing billions of hardened, desperate souls already accustomed to suffering, hunger, and violence long before they ever see a battlefield. From the moment a child is deemed fit for service, their fate is effectively sealed. Records are taken, bodies examined, and genetic impurities quietly noted by administratum scribes who care little for the individual behind the data slate. Once the tithe is called, entire regiments may be raised in a matter of months, stripped from their homes, families, and identities, and handed over to the Departamento Munitorum to be armed, trained, and deployed wherever the Imperium's need is greatest. Training for the Imperial Guard is harsh, but often alarmingly brief. Recruits are taught the basics of marksmanship, battlefield discipline, and the sacred rituals required to maintain their standard-issue lasgun. They are drilled relentlessly in formation, tactics, trench warfare, and obedience above all else. Tactical flexibility and independent thought are luxuries rarely afforded to Guardsmen. Instead, they are conditioned to follow orders without hesitation, even when those orders will almost certainly result in their deaths. Faith is beaten into them as thoroughly as discipline. The imperial cult teaches that the emperor watches over all, and that to die in his service is the greatest honor a mortal can achieve. Chaplains and commissars loom large over training grounds, ensuring that fear is replaced with devotion and doubt is punished swiftly and publicly. To falter in faith is not merely a personal failing, but a threat to the morale of the entire regiment. Once training is complete, Guardsmen are loaded aboard vast troop transports, their regimental colors unfurled and their names entered into ledgers that will almost certainly outlast them. Many will not even know the destination of their deployment until the moment they descend through a planet's atmosphere under fire. Some will be sent to reinforce crumbling defensive lines, others to spearhead hopeless assaults against entrenched xenos or heretic positions. The Imperium does not waste time explaining the wider strategic picture to its soldiers. They are simply told where to stand, where to advance, and when to die. Life on campaign is an exercise in relentless misery. Guardsmen live in trenches filled with mud, blood, and the remains of those who came before them. Rations are meager, often little more than nutrient paste or corpse starch, recycled from the dead of previous engagements. Sleep is scarce, interrupted constantly by artillery barrages, alarms, and the ever-present threat of attack. Disease spreads quickly through overcrowded camps, and Medici facilities are perpetually overwhelmed, forced to triage ruthlessly and discard those deemed beyond saving. The battlefield itself is a place of unimaginable horror. Guardsmen face enemies that no sane human should ever be forced to confront: towering orc warbands that revel in slaughter, chittering tyrannid swarms that devour entire regiments in moments, soulless Necron legions that rise again, no matter how many times they are cut down, and the twisted horrors of chaos whose very presence corrodes the mind and soul. Against such foes, the average guardsman's flak armor and lasgun offer scant protection, yet they are expected to stand their ground regardless. Commissars ensure that they do. These grim enforcers of imperial law walk openly among the ranks, bolt pistols at their sides, watching for any sign of cowardice or dissent. A single step backward without orders can result in immediate execution, carried out in full view of the regiment as a reminder that fear of death is no excuse for failure. To the Imperium, a guardsman who dies advancing has served his purpose. One who retreats has not. Despite this, bonds form among the soldiers. Shared suffering breeds camaraderie, and many guardsmen rely entirely on their squad mates for emotional survival. They swap stories of home, cling to small personal trinkets, and develop dark, morbid humor as a shield against the constant presence of death. These moments of humanity are fleeting, often cut short by sudden violence, but they are precious all the same. Promotion within the Guard is rarely a reward for merit, but rather a consequence of survival. When officers fall, someone must take their place, and those who live long enough may find themselves leading men with little more training than they themselves received. Veterans are respected not for their skill alone, but for the simple fact that they have endured when so many others have not. Even so, no rank truly offers safety. The enemy's fire does not discriminate. For some guardsmen, the war never ends. Entire regiments may spend decades fighting across multiple campaigns, replenished constantly with fresh recruits who rarely survive their first engagement. Others are wiped out entirely, their names struck from the rolls and replaced by new formations bearing the same regimental number as if the previous incarnation had never existed. In this way, the Imperial Guard is both eternal and endlessly disposable. Those few who survive long enough to be discharged may return home forever changed, bearing physical scars, psychological trauma, or crude augmetic replacements for lost limbs. Many find it impossible to reintegrate into civilian life, their only marketable skill being violence. Some re-enlist willingly, unable to imagine any existence beyond the battlefield. Others are quietly reassigned to penal units or labor corps, their usefulness to the Imperium not yet fully exhausted. Death, however, is the most common fate. Guardsmen die in their billions, their bodies left unburied on alien worlds or fed into the grinding machinery of war. Their sacrifices are recorded, if at all, as numbers on a data slate, tallied and forgotten as new offensives are planned. And yet, without them, the Imperium would collapse within days. Every fortress held, every world reclaimed, every enemy delayed has been bought with guardsman blood. The life of an Imperial Guardsman is one of suffering, obedience, and inevitable sacrifice. They are not superhuman warriors clad in ceramite, nor immortal demigods of legend. They are ordinary men and women armed with faith, discipline, and a lasgun, standing against the darkness of the galaxy. They are the wall upon which the horrors of the universe break, and though that wall is constantly rebuilt from the dead, it endures. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war, and it is the Imperial Guardsman who fights it, dies in it, and ensures that humanity survives for one more dawn. For the Emperor protects, but it is the Guard who pays the price. Glory to the Astra Militarum. Glory to the Emperor of mankind.